different in terms of how the mom does it, and she would have learned some mistakes from the past, and maybe that makes her more aggressive or more relaxed. I don't know. Interesting though, and it would be nice to see Tumba. I haven't seen Tumba this whole cycle so far, and I'm getting a bit of withdrawal symptoms. I don't really like not going up a long time without seeing Tumba. I think it's quite nice to see him regularly. He's a beautiful leopard and a very relaxed one, and he seems to have just plonked himself on Chitwa and nets, and now he's in Torchwood, and nobody's really seen him for the last few days. And so I'm hoping his next move is back to Djuma, and that we spend some quality time with him again fairly shortly. At least that's the hope anyway. I mean, they obviously can't control these things, and you can only do with what you've got and check the areas that you have, and if he's not within those, then well, that's the way it goes. Philip, you're asking if Tandi's pregnancy is the reason she's chased Shongile off site. No, not really. It's more that Shongile poses a threat to Tandi in terms of a territory and in terms of an area in which to den and food availability and resources. So Tandi very quickly realized that Shongile was making herself far too comfortable. Tingana hasn't quite caught on that the boys are making themselves so comfortable just yet, and maybe there's a bit of arrogance in that. Just because of his size, he's almost kind of thinking to himself, well, I'm bigger than these two boys, I don't really have to worry. Whereas Tandi, because she's kind of knows that there's a potential that Shongile could stick around too, this is a new area for her, so she's trying to assert herself just as much as what, let's say, Shongile was, and trying to claim and put her stake up as this being her area. And so that's maybe why you're seeing a lot more aggression from Tandi than potentially if she was a dominant female. If she was a dominant female, she might have been a little bit less aggressive, but because she knew that at the end of the day she's got to make sure that she's pushing and staking the claim and taking this area over from Karula, even though she disappeared, and then Shongile, that's maybe why she's a little bit more aggressive. Remember, that fight would have taken place when Tandi was probably either not pregnant or in the very, very early stages of it, and that means that she wouldn't really have known that she's pregnant. And so I don't think it's anything to do with pregnancy. I think it's more a situation where she was just trying to kind of establish herself in this area. Right, it's quiet out here today. There's not very much going on. Every single track I've picked up so far is heading to the southern boundary. So all the elephant tracks, there's lots of elephant tracks around, but they're all heading south and into Little Gowrie. I don't know where they came from and how they got there so fast, but it seems to be the way. Tonya, who's a new viewer, welcome to the Safari Live addiction, Tonya. And you're wondering if this is really live. It is most certainly live, and in the words of Brent Leo Smith, we are not 80, 90, not 95 or 99. We are 100% live from the African wilderness, and so we are able to answer all your questions. So if you have any questions about anything that we see out here, feel free to ask and to send your questions through, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. It's always nice when we get new viewers, because it's lots of things that I'm sure is kind of that you want to know and burning questions, and it's always good to try and get through a lot of those and try and kind of readdress some of the questions that maybe some others are a little shy to ask. And for those of you that are new, it always opens up a platform for that. But yes, we are live and we are driving around as we speak currently. This is not a recording in any way whatsoever. Wiem, where have all the animals gone? In their beds, I think so. Reading a book with a cup of hot chocolate or hot cocoa. Is that what you reckon? Yeah. Fair enough, it's a fair call. I would have thought yesterday was better bed weather, and we at least had Mvula yesterday, so hopefully something will come to our rescue. Like I said, the lions on Chitwa at the moment are just a no-go. There's just far too many people trying to get into the sighting, and the time is running out a little bit, and so I don't think we're going to be able to get in there without it getting dark, and that's why I've kind of abandoned that for the afternoon. But talking about lions and talking about all things sort of fierce with claws and teeth, I believe Jamie Patterson, not that she's fierce with claws and teeth, has found the very said lions all the way in the Mara.
I would also like hot chocolate in bed. In fact, that's exactly what I feel like. I wonder if this lioness all the way over there would agree with me. that we found a lion. And unfortunately, we found a lion quite far away, but this is the lioness, or one of the lionesses that I've been looking for. She is, as far as I know, she is a member of the Marsh Breakaways, the three of them that spend a lot of time in the sort of eastern top corner of the Mara Triangle. So these are the lionesses where we had the tiny, tiny little bawling cubs a few weeks ago that sadly I haven't seen since. And then a few weeks after that, we had a couple of older cubs playing with an unusual toy to see in the Masai Mara. It was a blanket. They had a game drive blanket, and they were having great fun with it, and it was the best tug-of-war toy they could ever have experienced. It looked a lot like the blankets we carry on our vehicles, but it wasn't, just to clarify. It was not. Did you see any suckle marks there, Dave? I should have looked. I didn't see. I don't think she did have suckle marks, but let's wait until she rolls over, because she's going to, as is quite clear from the fact that she's being harassed by something, a fly or a bee or a wasp. Ali, lions can see pretty well during the daytime. Not as well as we can, but especially when it comes to movement, I've seen them spot prey at a really very far distance, and to zone in and focus and get that very sort of direct look that they get when they've spotted something interesting. So it's vision based. It's not as colourful as our vision. They do see in colour. It's not pure black and white, but it's not as vivid or as colourful or as wide a range of spectrum of colours. Gosh, that was a terribly unnecessarily tautologist way of saying that. Ha. There's definitely something bugging her. You can see it from her tail movements. My money's on a bee, or something like that. I wonder. It's a strange situation, this, with these lionesses. I don't know. I don't spend enough time with them to really get a proper grasp of their dynamics, but a couple of times I've seen them all on their own like this. Edu, absolutely they are. So Edu's wondering, I mean, we are quite far from Tanzania where we are, so these lions would not count. But Edu's wondering if there are prides or coalitions that would move between Kenya and Tanzania. There are no fences between Kenya and Tanzania in this area of the Masai Mara. Of course, that's the way the wildebeest come from. So yes, you will find that they do not recognize international boundaries. They don't have to carry their passports.
Now, apparently we are live. Sorry about that, everybody. We have no comms at all, and so it's really very difficult to know what's going on and how we're going to fix this. We're busy trying to work out ways to fix it, and that's why the camera was off to the side. His VM is trying to grab an Allen key, and we're going to try and just change our aerials from the back ones that are touching the roof, because we think maybe the roof is interfering with the signal, and that we'll put it onto the front ones and just, well, the front little antenna on there, and see if that's going to improve things, because at the moment even the game drive radio for some reason is gone funny. There we go. So VM's got our little key. We need this little Allen key in order to be able to do it just now, so we'll do that a little bit later when we're off air again. That's if we can hear Megan, otherwise we're just going to keep talking and going and going and going and going. So Megan, I can hear half of about every second word that you're saying. So Megan, I know, is trying to do a comms test with me at the moment, but there really isn't going to be much help because I can't really hear anything, Megs, unfortunately. I'm going to try and head a little bit closer to home as well and hope that that just helps and gets things going. It's a very strange thing because it keeps kind of going in and out, and so it's kind of a situation where 1 minute we've got it, the next minute we don't. Anyway, alas, let's not talk about gremlins. Gremlins shall not win the day. We shall overcome them and get rid of them. Well, that's interesting. Oh, stay there. No, don't move, don't move. There's a beautiful little beat. It's up to the left now. Yeah, it's just... yeah, it's just gone up. It's landed on that, fallen over. There we go. So there is a little bee eater to add a bit more colour to our afternoon. So the birds have really come out to splash some colour into this area and make sure that we at least see some brightness on a rather dreary day. And this little guy, is, as you can see, doesn't sit still for very long. It's up and down all over the place, and will be loving the fact that we've had a bit of rain, because that's going to mean lots of food and lots of insects. And so you'll find these guys will just perch on these open branches, then they fly off and hawk insects, and then back onto a perch again. So that was nice to see. Always wonderful when there's some brightly coloured birds around. And the bee eaters in particular are some of my favorites. I'm really looking forward to more of the European bee eaters being back. I have heard one flock come over, and then also to hear, well, to see actually, the carmine bee eaters in December. They're some of my favorites. The carmines are absolutely beautiful. They've got that rich kind of red coloration and very, very pretty birds. And you find them coming in December, and they're normally here for quite short. They sort of here January, February, and then off they go again already in sort of mid to late February, and by March there's really no sign of the carmines anymore. So they're probably one of the shortest stays of our migratory birds, and the reason why they stay for so short and why they arrive so late is because they don't migrate very far. They only migrate a little bit further north of us into sort of northern Botswana, Zambia, and then towards the equator, and then back they come again. So it's not a very long way that they have to fly. If you think of things like redback shrikes and Wahlberg's eagles that can, and European honey buzzards that have to go all the way up into Europe, and even as far as the Russian steppes, if you think of the steppe eagle. So that's pretty crazy to think that they fly all the way from Russia to South Africa and back again, all in 1 year, spend half their life flying. I suppose many a business person could sympathize with that as well. Laurie Lee, you're asking what is the average size of bee eaters? Well, fairly small. So that little bee eater is obviously the smallest of the group. The rest of them are not much bigger. They're probably about double the size of that little bee eater. And so I would guess, if I had to think about a sort of height for them, I would say about 15 centimeters, 15 to 20 centimeters would be about the average for them. So what's that in inches? That would be... Sure, I'm just trying to think what that would be in inches. It would be maybe about 3-4 inches. Is that about right? Somewhere around there, I think. 4 to 5 inches is about the average size of bee eaters here in South Africa. The little bee eater being the smallest. And I'm actually not sure which is the biggest of the bee eaters, to be honest. I would imagine either the carmines or the white-fronted of the ones that we get here would be the biggest. I don't think the white-fronteds are smaller than the Europeans, but I'll check it now in the book. Actually, that's not a bad idea. While we're kind of bumbling around and we're not really got anything to look at, that's not a bad place to stop and just have a little look at our bee eaters and just check. Now, of course, my bird book, it has bee eaters right on the front, so it seems fitting, doesn't it? But here we go. I'll show you the bee eaters that we actually get here. Now, the first bee eater, the one I was referring to arriving back, is this European bee eater. So I heard them and saw them 2 days ago. I think it was just the day before the rain really started. So we've seen them, and they get to 25 centimeters. So there we go. That's in 28 if we include the streaming feathers, so about 5 inches for these guys. They're very, very pretty. Now, the rest of the bee eaters, actually, sorry, I lied, we've got one bee eater other that occurs here. That's the white-fronted bee eater, which is 22 centimeters, so it's also fairly in the same size. So the Europeans are actually larger, which is quite interesting. I thought the white-fronteds might be a bit larger. And then to kind of complete our bee eaters that we get here, the little bee eater, which is the one we just saw right down at the bottom, which is a tiny little 15 centimeter bird, and you can see got quite a sort of squared off tail, not too many streamers. And then the bird that I was saying that I'm really hoping that we're going to see soon, which is the carmine. And look at how beautiful those colors are. It's got these reds with this little blue tail and this blue crown and the long tail streamers that come off, and so they really are beautiful. And apparently with the tail streamers, according to my book, they are 38 centimeters long, so almost 40 centimeters, which is much bigger than what I thought. But without the tail streamers, apparently only about 25, so not too big. And they're fairly small then, and very light and agile flyers. They've got these kind of sickle-shaped wings, which helps them to be able to fly incredibly well and turn on a dime, and then this long curved beak that they use to grab insects in flight. They hunt on the wing pretty much exclusively. Very seldom you'll see a bee eater dive down on the ground feeding, unless it's a hatch of termites and the winged allets have landed and their wings are off. Then you'll find the bee-eaters sometimes down feeding off the winged allets, but generally they're hunting on the wing, grabbing things as much as they can while they fly. And so that long beak just helps to grab things before it gets away from them or evades them in any way whatsoever. What's interesting about being up this side of the world and kind of checking around here is that it still appears very dry. If you look around, there's still a lot of kind of trees that haven't budded yet or haven't gotten leaves, and it's still quite dry on the crest areas. So even though we've received rain and we've had a few storms and we had a bit of rain yesterday, it's still very dry in these areas, and we need a lot more until this is going to proliferate and lush up again like sections of the Mulawati and those areas. Now, I'm going to carry on northwards and see where the roads take me. Wiem and I are running out of ideas a little bit as to where we want to go. But while we do that, let's go back to Jamie Patterson, who has got a very clear idea of where she's going today and seems to be having all the luck this afternoon.
Another beautiful evening in the Mara, and we're still with our Lioness in the vague hope that she decides to come a little bit closer. This is one of our non-off-roading areas, so I can't get any closer to her. She has to choose to come to me, and I have to confess I don't think that she's going to. So what we'll probably do shortly after this, because it is starting to get dark here now as well, so she's beyond the range of what we can properly film, we'll probably move on and we'll go all the way up this lugger back towards where the Lionesses had their den site, and perhaps one or two of the rest of her pride mates will still be in the area. What's up, girl? Is that thing still bugging you? Maybe she's lying in an ant's nest. She was snapping at the air earlier, though, which makes me think perhaps something flying and stinging and biting. Laurie Lee, in terms of their top speeds, a lion can cover a distance of 20 meters per second at absolute top speed. So that's when they are in full flight, when they are at their absolute maximum. They cannot maintain that for very long. But to give you an idea, she could cross the distance to me, although there is a bit of a lugger in the way, admittedly. But she could potentially cross the distance and reach our vehicle if she so wanted to, which of course she doesn't. But if she wanted to, she could probably do that distance in 2.5 seconds, give or take. Maybe a little bit longer. Let's say 3. Let's say 3 for safety's sake. So you're looking at a top speed of about 80 kilometers an hour. And although they technically don't have the best stamina of the various animals out here, that's why they're ambush predators, that's why we see them... Oh, there she is. That's why we see them stalking their prey. I've seen lionesses chase buffalo, not at their top speed, but I've seen them chase buffalo for well over 2 kilometers. So when they're determined, they can keep going. The lionesses, of course, being not quite as heavy or muscle-bound, or of course have that massive mane around their heads, they tend to have slightly better stamina than the males and are slightly more agile. The flip side of that is that they're not as strong, of course. Aww. Sweet girl, I think you're going to make up our minds for us. She keeps putting herself further and further away. I think let's move on. Let's carry on up the drainage line and let's see what we can find. And sorry Megs, just to confirm, Batman is watching this evening. Did I get that correct? It was Batman. Now, if I could, I would most definitely answer the next question in the Batman voice. I don't think I can. I don't think I can. I'm sorry, Batman. I feel like I've let you down. But next time, I'll work on it and I'll get back to you. You want to know why lions would kill cheetah? The reason that they do that is it's a predatory instinct with all of the different predators. So, as equally the fact that a lion will kill a cheetah will kill lion cubs if they find them on their own. And it's a way of reducing competition. They are all in competition for essentially the same resources. Yes, lions tend to go for larger prey, but as we've seen with the musketeers, for example, the 5 male cheetah, not the lion musketeers, the cheetah musketeers, a bit confusing. They can actually tackle adult wildebeest, which of course would be on a lion's menu. So it's a way of reducing competition over resources, and it's instinctive. It's driven by instinct, as it is because lions are the biggest, baddest predator out here in terms of just sheer size. They are the ones that can cause the most damage. They're also quite fast, and they're very stealthy, which means they are responsible for more cheetah deaths than something like a hyena. Actual physical deaths. You could argue that hyenas steal more regularly from cheetah, and therefore I've been responsible for cubs starving, but I think it's a bit of a stretch. It's safe to say that lions do kill the most cheetah out here. It's just because they're the biggest predators. And it applies across the board. Hyenas will kill leopard cubs, leopards will kill cheetah cubs. It's the unfortunate reality, and one that's got to be viewed, which is why we're bumbling along, so we might as well have a long conversation. We've had conversations about anthropomorphism before, and I believe that it should be applied to a point, because I think that we're missing out on an aspect of animals' lives if we try and view them purely from a scientific basis. But it's when it goes into the realms of demonizing one animal for what it does to the other animal that I think it goes a stretch too far, because they're not guided by our morality. They're driven by instinct, and there's no thought, there's no malice, there's just what their instinct tells them to do. Just like with the baby Thompson's gazelle hunt that we had with the cheetah. It was running, they chased it, they're cats. They caught it, they played with it a little bit, because that's what cats do. It's not always easy for us to watch as human beings, but it's the reality of the world out here. And I'm not saying you can't be upset by it. Absolutely, I am at times. But you sort of have to take the good with the bad out here, in a way. And one day that meal will serve the musketeers well, when it comes time to sire the next generation of little cheetah cubbies. Now, on that subject, Aiden, who is 6 years old, and I'm even going to stop the car so I can answer this question properly. That's also because I might go through a bit of a signal dip up ahead. Now, we have a 6-year-old viewer who would like to know if lions are friends with other lions. Sometimes. So, within a pride of lions, so a group of family that you see together with all the ladies, they are related to each other. So that's actually one big family. And you could definitely say that they're friends as well as being family, because they see each other all the time, they love each other, they play with each other, even the adult lionesses do. So that is quite a special bond, in my opinion. The same applies to male lions, even more so, because in a coalition of male lions, they don't always have to be brothers or cousins. Sometimes they can be completely unrelated, but they still love each other, and they'll still go up and rub heads with each other and be affectionate with each other, but only in that group. So if another group comes along, then they're immediately rivals and they will fight each other. So it's a bit tricky with lions. They're not always friends with each other, but when they're in their group, then yes, they are friends with each other. And it's quite lovely to watch. I think we should be okay around this corner. And thank you to all the parents out there. There are quite a few regular names popping up, or have been for a very long time, of parents who have their kids watching Safari Live on a regular basis, and it's really quite special. So thank you to the parents out there. I think it's an invaluable gift that you're giving your kids. Okay, I'm going to go off, possibly round a bad signal dip, so to avoid disappearing off your screen rather abruptly. It's a nice new word. As I disappear off your screen abruptly, let's go across to Tristan and find out if he has a slightly better ability to speak today.
Well, I'm sorry, I missed exactly what Jamie said, but I can tell you that at least we've somewhat fixed our comms problem. It seems as though it was the roof that is interfering with it, and so we've now switched to the front one, but it's still a little bit soft, but we'll fix it just now when I get the audio levels right. But what you can see is I was looking around for this leopard earlier, and I went off-road a little bit, and there was a few branches that fell into the car, and it seems to have a few little caterpillars on it. And these look like the same caterpillars that James so lovingly tried to grow in the tent at the beginning of the year to see what they are, and we eventually managed to ID the fact that these are Kruger butterfly caterpillars. So that's what it looks like. They're on this very, very small little stick. I'm going to put my finger there so that you can all see just how big these little caterpillars are. They're absolutely tiny little things at the moment, and slowly but surely they will grow. What they're doing on a dead stick or a drying stick like this, I'm not quite sure. These little guys need to be somewhere where there's food, and so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to head back into that area, obviously, to try and carry on looking for this leopard. And so where I kind of picked them up, I'm going to try and put them in some sort of a tree there so that they're in a similar area and that the vegetation type is pretty similar so that they can find enough food, because I don't want to put them somewhere where they don't belong and they end up being snacked on by something. So we're going to try and take them with. The problem is that it's very windy, and so now I've got to try and figure out a way for these guys to stay with us. And I think I've maybe thought of a way. Let's see if they'll go into the dashboard. There we go. So our little caterpillar friends, that's where they're going to stay. They're going to be on Wendy's dashboard, and hopefully that little stick is fairly sturdy. Yes, that's fairly sturdy, or maybe not if I flick it. Let's push that back in a bit. There we go. And so they can just have a little relaxing time watching over Wendy while I decide to carry on back towards where they need to go. So at least we've got two friends on board, and I'm pretty sure they'll be quite happy to be out of the wind down there as well, rather than being out on the bonnet where they were being blown about all over the show. So at least that's nice. Hopefully they don't just drop down into the car itself and into my shoes. I don't really want a caterpillar in my shoes. Also, I think it might be a bit detrimental to their health if they drop into my shoes, not because my feet are stinky or anything like that. It's just because I'll stand on them and squash them in my shoes. So hopefully they don't end up inside there. I think nobody likes a bit of caterpillar between the toes. Debbie, you say, woohoo, new butterflies on the way. Indeed, and I'm super excited because butterflies are one of my favorites. I really like butterflies, and so I'm looking forward to lots of new butterflies being around and for us to be able to see them and to be able to spend time with them, and it's going to be all just very, very cool to see. So I'm also quite happy about that. At this kind of weather now, we won't see too many of them around, unfortunately, but we're starting to see a lot of them a few days ago. Just when it was hot, we were starting to see some brown veined whites coming out, the pearl emperor shiraxis. We were starting to see some of the guinea fowl butterflies. We were starting to see what else did I have? I saw a couple others. I just can't remember now. But there's some of them are starting to come out. Monarchs, there's a few of them around. And so there will be a lot of butterfly species after this little cold snap. Once we start getting a little bit more warmth again, then I'm pretty sure we're going to see a number of caterpillars and then butterflies after that. So really cool to see. It's always exciting when there's a number of them around. Right, VM, I think let's go one more loop around that treehouse, twin dams, elephant carcass area. Maybe we get lucky one more time and we'll just check and double check and scratch around, and I might just have a little walk around that drainage line because she might be lying somewhere in that thicket. I know the last time we had a leopard in there, she ended up sleeping there for most of the day, and so that's where I'm hoping she's going to be, is somewhere in that general direction. So I'm going to head there and hopefully get lucky with her napping under a tree somewhere. Asking what is the first flower of spring? Well, the first flower that we see, if we have to kind of quantify in terms of once it's been very dry, would have to be the knobthorn flowers, but they're not really spring flowers, they're more kind of wintry, so they come just before the spring. So I would say first spring flowers for me generally are the sausage trees, followed by maybe the spike thorns. They tend to get as well quite early. We saw some little fruits already from the spike thorns. I'm just trying to think in terms of standalone flowers. Tough. Probably poison apple or the roadside pimpernel / lion's eye debacle. That flower that we're all trying to just kind of get a handle on at the moment. It's an ongoing debate between the two of them, although I feel like there's probably both that occur here, and that we just need to sort that out. But those are probably the first two that we start to see appearing, well, that I've seen particularly this spring. Those are the first two sort of ground-based flowers. But in terms of trees, knob thorns, and then followed quickly by, we start to see the sausage trees, and then, like I say, spike thorns, quarries. Then we get into the Bolusanthus, or the tree wisteria. So, Shannon, I think I got this right. I was just trying to plot and just kind of think about what you were saying. That I think you said, can I show you the wild asparagus? I think that's what you were asking. Maybe my comms broke up a bit. But if that was what you're asking, not just yet. Asparagus fern. So I don't know of an asparagus fern in the Sabi Sands, and I certainly haven't seen any ferns here, and maybe it is what we're referring to in the form of wild asparagus is what we call it. Not growing just yet. If it is a wild asparagus, it's more a summer plant, and it needs a bit more rain, and it's one of those kind of low growing plants that just comes up off the ground and you then see it. In terms of animals eating it, I've honestly never seen an animal eating it itself. I've seen animals walking around it and feeding off grasses and various other things, but not actually eating the asparagus plant itself. So I don't think that they do, but maybe we're talking about two different things. Maybe if you can send a photo to #SafariLive and I can have a little look and see just exactly what plant you're referring to. It's sometimes much easier when we use scientific names, and this is why scientific names are used commonly with insects and plants, is because in different areas plants and insects can have different names, and that makes it then very difficult for everybody to be on the same page and to know exactly what we're referring to. So maybe if you can send a picture with the name that you have for it, and we can just double check if it grows in this area and if we're referring to the same things, so that I can actually answer your question properly. And if once you've sent your photo through, I'll have to have a look at it when I get home this evening, but after that I'll try and address it tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, depending on which one you would like me to do it. If you just maybe let me know as well as to when you will be watching again. Proud Cat Mama, you want to know if there are any flowers here that are edible? I'm sure there are. I personally have never eaten any of them, actually. I might be completely wrong. I'm trying to just think of flowers that I could have maybe potentially eaten. I haven't actually eaten any, to be honest. So I would imagine, yes, there are a number of them that will not harm you, particularly if you can eat their leaves. So, if you think of things like buffalo thorns, even acacias, any of those things, you can eat their leaves. They probably won't be that tasty, but you can eat them, and that will kind of form part of a nutrient base, and so I'm pretty sure their flowers would be edible as well. It's just there's no common sort of eaten flowers in this particular section. Well, certainly not that I know of anyway. It might be somebody that eats flowers and has some sort of medicinal use for them, but not actually in terms of an actual edible food source that is harvested and grown just for food. There's typically more a leaf-based thing like a spinach or a moroch or something like that would be grown for food rather than flowers. I don't know where else to look for this leopard. I've pretty much searched every road that I can think of that could have been walked. There is not a single track anywhere to be seen, so I don't know, like I say, if she's sleeping or if she's walked and somebody unfortunately drove over the tracks. I'm not 100% sure, or like I say, I've just headed in the complete wrong directions. At this stage though, there's definitely no sign from where I've looked. I'm going to go back into the area one more time and just do another loop around and hope for the very best. The other bit of news is that the Nkuma Pride apparently just got up and just walked straight into Torchwood, so even if we had gone that way we wouldn't have seen them. They've gone up into Torchwood, they've finished their carcass and have already moved, including the little cubs too. They've been marched off into Torchwood and are now apparently resting on Torchwood itself. Now there's another cup here, so this is the second one that I've found. So evidently somebody has been driving around and dropping cups all over the place, which is not very pleasant at all. So we'll just pick that one up and try and get it off the road, because purple cups are not for the bush and are not supposed to be in this area at all. Just make sure we get rid of whatever's in there, because I probably not above board at all, if it's from who I think it is. But like I say, there's the second one that I've picked up this afternoon. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe more of them as well. It's not very nice to see though. Ellie, who's 5 years old. Hello Ellie, and you lost your first tooth today. Oh no, that's always a traumatic time when you lose your first tooth, but don't worry, it means that you're going to get a nice big one that's going to grow and last you all of your life. So it's important when you lose your teeth that you get your new ones and that they're all strong and healthy, so don't worry about it. But you want to know if, because you lost your tooth today, do caterpillars have teeth? Now Ellie, no, they don't really have teeth. They have what we call mouth parts. Now, mouth parts are generally hardened pieces of an exoskeleton or a skeleton, and not like our bones, but it's more made out of, I'm just trying to think of the name now, I've forgotten, but it's sorry? Keratin. No, it's not keratin. Keratin is hair. It's chitin is the name. That's right. Chitin is what I was looking for. And so it's a hardened substance, and it makes it almost like, feels a bit plasticky, if you want to call it that. And those then grind up against each other, and they can cut and bite and make sure that they eat little plants and vegetation. Remember that caterpillars are only eating leaves and grasses. They're not eating bones or meat or anything like that, so they don't need sharp teeth like we've got or like cats have got. They just need things that can able to cut vegetation, and so they have mouth parts much like most insects. They lack teeth, but they do have what's called mouth parts that can break everything up. But I hope that the tooth fairy comes to visit you as well, and that you have a sort of nice time, and that the tooth grows back very quickly, because I know sometimes it can be a bit tough when you don't have your tooth. I remember when I lost my teeth as well. It was a traumatic experience, and hopefully yours will be a lot less painful, and it will just, all of them will come out nice and easy, and everything will be okay. Right, it'd be nice if our toothy friend the leopard would come out though. That would be a much better situation. Now, I believe that Jamie Patterson is all the way in the Mara, and because we are in different time zones, has put on her infrared lights. Or no, we haven't, because Jamie has just been lost. Hopefully she hasn't lost her teeth and is still okay, but she apparently is got a few gremlin problems. Now, Jamie, you're more than welcome to knock out all the teeth of said gremlins, no problem. Nobody, I think, will mind if you do that. They are a bit of a pain in the backside, and so if you knock their teeth out, I think everything will be okay. But I'm just scanning ever so slightly along the banks here, just to try and check. This leopard could be anywhere in this general vicinity, but the fact that elephants came through here could mean that, you know, she's moved off, she's gone in another area. It's any of those kind of things could have happened. So I'm going to just try and scratch around one more time and just kind of go to where I think she might be lying. Apparently she was left somewhere close to this boer bean in front here, so I just want to double check and triple check this area and make sure she's not somewhere in this general vicinity. The problem is, if she was left moving, the chances of us finding her is very slim. If she was left lying down, then it's obviously a lot easier. But the guys that left her apparently are all not out this afternoon. They are watching the rugby. There's a big rugby game today here in South Africa, and it is the final of what we call the Curry Cup. Now, the Curry Cup is a big event, and it is the Sharks, which is Jerry's favourite team and Brent's favourite team, so I'm sure Brent is watching the Curry Cup, and I'm sure Brent is cheering on, and they are playing against Western Province, which is the Cape Town team. So I would imagine if Megan followed rugby, which I don't think she does, that would be the team that she would be supporting. And those two teams are going head to head in the final today, and so hopefully we'll get a result when we finish drive. Jerry's saying that I mustn't spoil it, and I must be careful and not to have a spoiler alert. Now, Jerry, I won't spoil it because I have not the foggiest idea of what's going on, given that I am on drive. And secondly, at the end of the day, it's none of them are my teams. My team unfortunately lost in the semi-final, and they are the Lions from Johannesburg. And so at the moment, I'm in a situation where, well, I don't really not, I suppose that's a horrible way to put it, but I don't really care, to be honest. It's not anything that I want to know about. The only thing is, if the Sharks win, Brent Leo Smith is going to be unbearable and is going to give me, and going to be full of nonsense, and so he's going to give me a lot of stick, because I've given him a lot of trouble, because the Lions have been beating the Sharks fairly regularly over the last few years, which was a very big change from times gone by, and so I've given a lot of trouble to Brent, and I feel like my payback is coming now, and Brent is about to give me all the trouble that I gave him back. Now I see lots of vehicle tracks even here, so she must have kept coming this direction and moved in this area, so I'm just going to keep following the vehicle tracks, and well, maybe I'll get lucky somewhere. I don't know if I will. Wendy, who say all the animals are watching the rugby and that's where they are. Well, Wendy, I agree with you, because there's no animals anywhere where we've driven this afternoon. Even the impalas have been a little bit on the scarce side, and so it's been a bit of a tough afternoon. Now, I'm not sure I'm going to... Sorry, what's that, Bill? I don't know if we're going to even be able to fit under here, so I just want to try and see how our roof goes, but I don't think it's going to work. No. That's not going to work at all, so I'm going to have to try and rethink this game plan and see where else I can head and if there's another way around this particular area. But I believe Tayla is back from the shadowy no signal zone, and hopefully she'll have lots of good news as to where she's been and the epic adventures she's had with her spotlight.
Well, we've been gone for quite some time. You've probably forgotten who I am. I feel like I need to reintroduce myself, but I won't. We took a road that we thought was going in the direction that we wanted it to. Turns out it took us on a wild goose chase, and then it took us forever to get back again. But we stumbled across some hyenas. Here's one of them. There's a couple of them. I saw lots of their eyes shining back at me. Hello. What are you doing, hyena? Sniffing the air. That's exactly what it's doing. Yeah, it keeps putting its nose up towards the wind. Very powerful sense of smell. Although I feel like hyenas are quite lucky. They've got an all-round sort of good senses. Good ears, big ears, for hearing very well. Eyes that I'm sure work 10 times better than mine. And then, of course, a very powerful sense of smell. And they rely on their sense of smell quite heavily. There's a whole lot of them here, so there must be a den. I wonder if they're living in one of those culverts. Let me see if I can find the rest of them. They're just up here. I'm just going to move forward. Roshni said that the Mara is so dark compared to Djuma. Yes, it's because we're an hour ahead of South Africa. Oh, little hyenas. Hello, little hyenas. Craig, we might have to put the infrared on for them. I don't think I'll put a spotlight on them. The adults are here, though. So we're just going to change now. Ta-da! Into infrared we go, and we have stumbled across a den, and they are denning in a culvert. There's a little hyena at the back. Probably about 6, maybe about 8 months old or so. Maybe a little bit younger than that. The grass is a bit long. But a bit timid. Don't worry. Come back. You'll get used to us eventually. This one's old enough to be running around with the adults. There they will go now. Bye, hyenas. It's nice to see them. You know what I haven't seen, though? I haven't seen teeny tiny cubs for a very long time. And I actually think we've passed these hyena a couple of times. We may have seen them the other morning. We had that one that looked like it had just woken up. We're pretty much in exactly the same spot again. So it's this little clan around here. I'm not sure which clan of hyenas it is, but there are a few of them around here. Pisces, I'm refreshed at your comment. Well, it's such a great thing to hear. You said that their face is always so cute. Normally you would hear the complete opposite with hyenas and how ugly they are and they're mean creatures and all these different things, but they aren't. They really, really are lovely. I love that little one. It's just bounding about, but keeping an eye on us, ears pricked forward, staying close to the adult side. The adults know that we're nothing to worry about, though, which is quite cool. That's quite nice to see. But pity they're just so far away. I don't know if we will stay long with them, just because that youngster has said that it's a little bit nervous of us, and it is dark. We aren't putting any lights on it, though. We're just using the infrared at the moment. Another great comment, and it's from Kathy this time round, saying that hyenas are so fascinating. It is. You can sit for ages and ages. Again, it's hard to watch predators sleep, but when they get on the move at night time, it's it's pretty spectacular. It's just very difficult to follow hyenas in the triangle because the grass is so long. But on the other side of the river in the reserve, the grass is short, like a golf course, like a fairway, and it makes it much easier to see where they are going. Look at little, look at little eyes just bobbing up and down the grass. It's very excited this evening. Maybe it's going to go on its first adventure, or it's had the taste of a run around before and now, you know, wants to keep going out with the adults all the time. They do often follow the adults around. That's so cool. Okay, let's carry on though. We might see some more hyenas. They're just moving very far, and like I said, I don't want to put a spotlight just on that little one again. It's just showing us that it's not comfortable with the car. We don't want to push it. That was such a great little interaction, so hopefully it will remember that for next time. And when we see it again, it won't be so surprised. It'll be a bit more relaxed. Some more eyes up ahead. So, something, I'm trying to find my radio. Something that I did see is we actually saw some lions. We found the Sausage Tree Pride lions, and we've got something walking down the road towards us. There's an antelope, maybe Orobi. I think I've heard correctly. I'm so sorry. I had the worst luck with the radio. It breaks up with the most valuable word, but I think it's a question from Jamie, and it's, are hyenas safe from lions when they're in their den? And the answer to that is absolutely not. If you watched the other evening, you would have seen lions are exceptionally good diggers, and 3 lionesses with Brent actually dug out a warthog, so they could do very much the same thing with hyenas. So no, they're not safe. Anything in a burrow, unless it's something like a scrub hare that has got very narrow sort of chambers underground, and quite a few of them might have a chance of escaping. Warthogs, of course, have a chance too, because they've got a number of different entrances and exits that they can dart out. It just depends on which hole that the warthog decides to try and escape from. Is there going to be a lion waiting outside? And that's a gamble that they have to take. But no, I'd be nervous. I mean, even for things like scorpions, they've only got one entrance to their tunnel, and if a honey badger gets whiffed that there's a scorpion in there, it's going to dig until it catches its delicious treat. So I don't think it would be a good idea to hide in a burrow. If I was trying to escape from lions or a leopard, I probably wouldn't dig myself in a hole. I'd do something else. I think I'd climb up the escarpment, climb up the rocks, and try and put as much ground and natural sort of barriers between us. If for some reason there were ferocious man-eating lions roaming around here, but they aren't. They're alright. They're mainly scared of us. So this is a cool road for hyenas, though. This is probably, in my opinion, the most productive road for hyenas. Now, Christine, something that you've never seen before. You said you've never seen hyenas hunting. You're wondering, do they hunt? You've only ever seen them scavenge. And what is their favorite prey? Hyenas are not picky. They'll take whatever they can get, Christine. But they are exceptionally good hunters. Most of the time they end up hunting for themselves. They'll scavenge when they can. So when there's plenty of opportunities, so for example, when the wildebeest are around, there is so many of them, unfortunately, that have drowned and washed up on the banks of the Mara River, or a lion has killed 6 in one go of pride lions, and they're not eating all of them. They'll come in and of course they'll scavenge, and if there's a single lion on a kill and there's a group of them, they're not going to say no to a free easy meal, so they'll try and chase them off. But they do a lot of hunting, so they'll eat anything from wildebeest. You'll see them trying to take on a buffalo that are maybe injured. Brent had a sighting with hyenas trying to catch a young buffalo calf. But I've seen a video that happened in Kruger as well, of them catching a sub-adult, so it was quite big, probably a bit smaller than a buffalo cow. And they brought it down eventually. It took a while, but they did. So they'll take anything from a scrub hare. I've seen hyenas eating scrub hares. Impala they will take as well. They are not fussy creatures. And earlier we were talking about cannibalism, and yes, hyenas will take their own as well. They won't necessarily, if say something's happened and a lion has killed one of their members, after they've got too close to a kill, they might not eat it straight away, but if they come back the next day and it's still there, they will gobble it up. Hyenas do not waste. And that's why they're such they're so successful. it's just because they're not picky. They do whatever they can take. And now I've jinxed myself. I've said that this is the best road for hyena, and now we've only had that one group. And they're normally everywhere around here, walking around. Once you've stopped at one hyena, or 2 hyenas, 3 hyenas, you stop after the 6th and 7th one. You're like, no, we're not looking at them anymore. You just keep going. They're normally everywhere. Maybe it's a bit early. Maybe it's going to start their night a little bit later this evening. I still would like to see owls. I still would like to see marsh owl. But again, I haven't seen them this side. I've only been seeing them on the other side of the river. Well, that could be quite cool, but you never know what we might find. It's a bit windy. Great hunting weather at the moment for any of the big cats. We were also talking about hopefully finding a serval. We didn't find our leopard, which was a little bit sad, but that's okay. It's one of those things. So we're driving around. It's obviously quite dark now. It's getting there in South Africa. And William, you're wondering whether there are any curfews out here in the Mara. There most certainly are, except for us. We're exempt. It's quite cool. So everybody else has to be back at their camps at about 6:30, or at least out of the park. So no one's allowed in after dark. But we're very fortunate. We're able to. We've got special permits, but we also have an armed guard with us at all times. So at the moment, Joseph is sitting at the back. You can't see him. He's tucked away. Scrub hair. What is wrong with you? Don't run in front of cars like that. It's dangerous. And so yeah. So he'll come out with us for as long as that we're outside, whether it's in the reserve or whether it's in the triangle. Anything after closing time, we'll have an askari with us at all time, which is quite cool though. It's really amazing to be out here so late at night. The things that we've experienced that people dream of, and people would probably be begging to come and do something similar, but they can't. Only us. Very, very spoiled. So I briefly told you that we found the sausage tree pride, not the 2 females with the 4 cubs. We found the 5 females with the 2 young males, and one's got like very, very dark eyes. They almost look completely black, but they're not. They're just exceptionally dark chocolate brown. That's how I remember them. So we found them, but unfortunately they weren't in a great spot, which was with pity, because they looked like they were going to get quite excited and start waking up. They were just rubbing heads, which was really nice to see lions actually moving around. But once we realized we didn't have any signal, we quickly moved away and tried racing back to a good spot. Again, we're still searching for hyenas, for servals, for any of the wonderful nocturnal creatures out here, maybe an owl. Tristan's doing exactly the same thing. Maybe you'll get a last-minute leopard.
I would like to get a last-minute leopard. It would be quite nice to get a last-minute leopard, but if we don't, we don't. That's the way it goes sometimes. So we're just checking around again. We heard some guinea fowls alarm call and flutter about in this area, so just coming to double check that maybe there's not this leopard walking around in this section now that we've been off-roading a little bit and driving around a little bit. Maybe we've just missed her and she's come out somewhere in this general vicinity. Doesn't seem as though I can find even a single track anywhere. I don't know how the guys found her this morning. Maybe she must have been on the road somewhere and they bumped into her, but there's no tracks that I can see, and so many vehicles have driven up and down here following her. It's a bit difficult to know exactly where she was left. It's also getting a bit dingy now to be walking around. You won't see a leopard very well in this, and I don't really feel like walking into either Shadow or Tundi in this kind of light. Both cats on their day can be a little on the grumpy side, so try and avoid that as much as possible. Anita from Virginia, you want to know if Tumba is Tundi's firstborn. So no, Tumba is not Tundi's firstborn. Tumba is Tundi's lastborn, actually. So her firstborn, she had a litter of 2 cubs. One was called Wabayiza. The other cub died, unfortunately, too young to be named anything. And then she had, after that, she had a litter of 2 again, which was again, one died and the other one was Bahuti. And I don't know where he ended up at. Last was seen going in towards Manyeleti area, around the gate, that section. And then there was, after him was Kuchava, So she's the young female that we saw mating with Tingana recently, and is now sort of set up a territory around Chitwa. And then she's had Tumba. So Tumba's the last born. And again, all of those individuals, even though they're all single raised cubs, all of them had litter mates, and unfortunately none of them litter mates survived, and so, which is not really pleasant. But anyway, it's the way it goes, and sometimes you get that. So it's actually her fourth offspring that she's managed to raise to independence, which is pretty good going if you ask me, given that she's had lost a few here and there, and she's unfortunately lost 1 or 2 cubs, but she's still managed to kind of get 4 to independence, which is a lot better track record than her sister, and is probably about average for most leopards. You find that most leopards will have done that by about 11 years old. They will have raised about 4 or 5 cubs, so she's done really well, and she's pretty much had a cub most of her adult life. If you think that generally they start breeding at around 3.5 to 4 years old is when they have their first one, and it's normally anywhere between 1.5 years and 2 years per kind of cub. So and then you've got the mating period. She's pretty much had a cub, like I say, all of her adult life. Now, since I've had very little luck this afternoon, and I'm still driving around trying to figure out where I'm going to find an animal, Tayla McCurdy has pulled a little rabbit out the hat and has waved her spotlight around like a little magic wand, and has managed to find some lions approaching in the darkness.
Can you believe it? We've been talking about how I haven't been able to find the Sausage Tree Pride, the 2 lionesses with the 4 cubs, and we were talking about the bigger Sausage Tree Pride. And much to my surprise, just after we sent you back across to Tristan, look who came walking back. So, Jamie, you'll be surprised and happy to know that these lions have not been in their regular spot. They've been giving me the slip for the last couple of days. I think they may have been in the tree line just further south of this main road, sort of the road that runs from the escarpment and down again. I cannot believe them. They're so sneaky. I'm going to see where exactly they are. It's so dark. I'm not going to put any light on because the 2, well, all of those cubs are a little bit young to spotlight. Yeah, so let's see where they were. How great is that? So they're coming home. They're actually heading back towards the escarpment now. They're about to cross the main road. That's good to know. And they don't look very full. That's good news. We might see them going after something. Well, we know what a disaster it is when those young cubs are around. Always trying to get involved. They're too eager, which unfortunately ruins it most of the time for the adults. Actually, I've never seen these lions take down anything successfully. I've only seen them stalking and attempting, and then the young cubs normally ruining the hunt. What's wrong with me today? Proud cat mama, and it's quite funny, we all have to say it like that. Everybody in camp says your name like that. You're wondering what is the best sense of the lions. It's a tough one because they've got a good combination. I'm going to say their eyesight is pretty spectacular. The fact that they can spot just a twitch or give an entire animal away, like a kudu standing against a shrub standing dead still, and if it twitches its nose and the lions are looking in that direction, they will see it. Cool, let's get a better position. But again, like the hyenas, they've got a great sense of smell. They've got really, really good hearing as well. So they don't just rely on one sense. Obviously, if the conditions are, say, not in their favor, say the wind is not blowing in the right direction, their sense of smell is going to be pretty useless. Their hearing might help them a little bit. So find, my goodness, how are we going to follow them here? Is there a road nearby? Just quickly checking the big lugger here. I think there might be a road coming up, so I'm just going to try and jump ahead of them. I don't really want to drive here with all the lots of little luggers. And here we go, perfect. And with all the rain that we've had, it's asking for trouble. That's how you get yourself stuck, especially if you're do silly things at night. So we will not do that. We'll stick just on this road, and then it levels out again. And then as I say that, I just clicked my neck. That felt quite nice, actually. Who needs a chiropractor when you can bounce around in the cars? I'll give you another view of those lines in 2 seconds. Just going to drive up here a little bit further. Bounce. Sorry, I'm actually going to turn my lights on. in front so I can see if there's any holes. The grass is too long here. Okay, where are these kitty cats going to come out? Right here. You're up in front. We know they're very relaxed, so I'm not too worried like I was with the hyena. These guys should walk right past us. We'll give them a bit of space. I'll stop here. I'll just switch all my lights off. Yeah, they're coming. Now they're walking in a straight line. They're actually beelining towards the escarpment at the moment, their favourite spot. And Jamie, you were wondering if they were heading towards the lions. No, in the complete opposite direction. So from where these lions are now, they're heading in a northerly direction. Those hyenas were maybe southwest from where we are. So they'll leave them alone. But I'm pretty sure those hyenas that we saw are the ones that often hassle these lionesses. And we've had a couple of sightings where the older lioness of this pride, and the one with the very sort of tattered ears, this might be her here, she'll often stalk hyenas from hundreds of meters away and then chase them. She really does not like them. And, I mean, of course, there's only 2 lionesses here, so it's actually quite appealing to a big clan of hyenas, especially with youngsters. We know how they will do absolutely everything that they can to protect these, their cubs if need be. They're growing so quickly. I can't believe how big they've all got. I feel like I haven't seen them in such a long time. Off they go, walking right in front of the car, completely relaxed. Oh, that's so beautiful. I love how the youngsters are all sort of huddling together. The adults will walk in front, and I think they'll want to keep it that way because I think that they're looking for something to eat. Oreo Boots, you're wondering if all cats have the Jacobson organ that help them smell things from far away. Yes, they do have the Jacobson organ, and the most important thing about a Jacobson organ for the various mammal species that do have it is actually to be able to tell whether a female is an estrus or not. It is so important to the males. Of course, the females have it too, and they'll use it to help identify various scents, but typically males will be using it firstly to try and track females down. You know, they'll test their urine and then try and track them like that, or ideally test very fresh urine as she's, producing it, as she's urinating. See how they keep stopping and sort of standing about listening? They're definitely looking for something. So the reason why the youngsters will walk at the back like this, they might get a bit frisky and then run around, but they will be reprimanded by the adults, is that if they do see something, the adults, they can say to little ones, okay, stay, sit, we can make this work. And then they probably won't listen because they never listen. These lion cubs are the naughtiest lion cubs I've ever seen. Let's go around them again. Hang on, what's those eyes? What's that? I've just seen something walking through the grass. Oh, please don't be a hole here because we're going to sink. Can you see what I'm looking at though, Craig? Is it a serval? What's that? I think it's a serval. It is a serval. We found our serval, everyone! Yay! My goodness, it's all coming together. That's fantastic. I wonder if this is my serval that thought it was a good idea to take on a hyena. It was around about this area too. That's so nice. So obviously, I'm going to go forward. We'll catch up with the lions. We've now lost. Oh no, they're the lions. I'm going to have a very quick look at the serval. Just because I've been saying for such a long time now, and I'm actually sad that Seb's not here. Sorry, Craig. Sebastian has yet to see a serval in the wild. Craig, you've seen a few now, haven't you? Where'd you go? It's a little bit of a skittish serval, so we won't be following, and it's actually just running off. But that also could be because of the presence of the lions. I think that's what's encouraged it to... Geraldine, stop it. Geraldine is now singing in my ear from South Africa. Sammy the serval, Sammy the serval cat. That is what we gave the serval that had the interesting encounter with a hyena, because Jerry was up that night watching us. She was babysitting us, basically, making sure we didn't get out of hand very late at night. Very cool. So it just moved off. I think it could also be hunting at the moment, but it did run from the car. I think it might be a little bit too much pressure in terms of the vehicle and big cats being around. So let's follow the lions, but a very cool sighting nonetheless. I'm so happy because I've been saying for how long now, we're going to have to go here, that we want to see a serval. Yay! I love it when things like this all come together. Oh my goodness. Craig, I don't know what we're driving in. Sorry, I'm just going to concentrate very quickly that we don't slip into a little boggy spot here. That could be terrible, and then I'll have to have Brent come and tow me out, and then I'll never hear the end of it. So I'm just going to quickly watch the road. Well, no, I'm not even on a road. I don't know what road I'm talking about. And then I've lost the lions. Oh no, I may have got too excited about the serval. Found the lions again. They're a bit far ahead. Goodness, they move quickly. Whew. Okay, I need to just concentrate just a little bit. What happens, and use all my lights and try not to run any lions and serval over as we navigate through here. Jamie's on a bumble. Hopefully she'll have some luck with some of the smaller nocturnal creatures.
Well, unfortunately, it seems as though Jamie's still got a few little gremlins, and so you're back here with me. But hang on a second. Why are there so many vultures here, Vim? There's a whole bunch of vultures just on my left-hand side that are in a dead tree. Now, the last time we saw Tundi was right here, and I don't think she's been seen since. I might just go and quickly have a little investigation just to see what's there. There's also a lot of buffalo tracks here, so you never know. I know that there's two buffalo, well, a buffalo that's been killed by the two Birminghams north of us, but who knows, maybe a third Birmingham or a fourth Birmingham is somewhere in this area. There's lots of vultures here, so I want to just double check and see maybe there's a carcass and something hiding away in this section. And it also obviously could be a case where it's just a place where they're roosting in this foul weather. It seems to be white-backs only, which is not that encouraging. If there was hoodeds here and maybe tawny eagles or battalier eagles, that would definitely help, but let's have a little look. They're just scattering at the moment. It's also not great area for a vehicle with a roof. I wonder. It might just be that they're roosting in this area. Could be. Worth checking around though, that's for sure. There you go, you can see them all kind of sitting on the tree to my right hand side, and it is overcast, cloudy conditions, wet weather, which is not conducive to flight. But let's see, are their crops full? No, not really. So it doesn't look like they've been down to feed. There's some more up ahead here. Let's just do a little kind of check around and a little glance around. Maybe I get lucky. I'm not 100% convinced. Like I say, if there's hooded vultures here, then I would have been a lot more kind of excitable about this whole story. But I don't see any hooded vultures, and there's no tawnies or battaliers. So I don't think there is anything. But like I say, worth just double checking and having a little look around. No, nothing there. No, I don't think we're going to find anything here. Like I say, this is where I left Tundi the other day, so it's very possible she might have killed something and left a little morsel or something like that, and the vultures have come in. Now, so no, I don't think there's anything here that I can see. I'm not going to go crashing around too much more because it is seriously dense in this particular section, and I don't really want to get any damage to the roof. Right, I'm going to try and get back out of here because I've gotten myself into rather dense, thick area, but I believe Jamie has somehow figured out her comms and figured out her gremlins and chased them all away. So let's go back to her and see where she is.
Oh, I'm not much use to man or beast at the moment, and the reason for that is that my spotlight's blue. The bulb, watch now, it will turn on, but no it won't, because I can actually see the part of the filament of the bulb rattling around inside of it. So unless something walks into the road in front of me, which is possible, I mean a lion could easily be walking along the road, stranger things have happened. So unless something walks right in front of me, I am of very little use to all of you. I can chatter away, of course, but that's about as much as I can do, and in the hope that perhaps a mongoose or an owl or something amazingly materializes in front of us. Shelley, I have been scared out at night, once or twice. I have been scared. Okay, I've been scared properly once, which was when we were caught in a wildebeest stampede. And because it was dark, they were confused, they were running everywhere. It was a really tricky situation to get out of, and it took us an hour and a half to do that. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I was scared. It was a genuinely unsettling experience of wildebeest just moving past us, and that's 200 odd kilogram per animal. It was intimidating, with 100,000 of them running at us. So yes, that was when I've been scared. I've had a few moments where lions have come a little bit too close for comfort, given us a little look that was a little bit too familiar for my liking. But I wasn't really scared in those situations. It was just a matter of handling it correctly. Otherwise, no, I don't really get nervous. Sometimes it's an eerie feeling. And it's unsettling when you don't know where you are, which in the beginning was a pretty regular occurrence. I'd be following lions and have absolutely no idea until the sun came up and I was able to see the various mountains where I was. So in a way that was unsettling, but not in a bad way, if that makes any sense. It was quite exciting to explore new areas. The only other time I don't think I was really scared so much as it was an awkward situation was with Dave, actually, when we first got Mila, and this is the car that I'm in at the moment. Mila's alternator didn't work, so our first nighttime expedition, my headlights failed about an hour back that way, and we had to drive back at an exceptionally slow pace, with me looking in my monitor, which sits down here, and with Dave with his infrared lights on. So I was driving, watching the screen. It was like playing a computer game. I was driving like this. And that's all fine and well on this road. It was less fun going up that hill and down that hill again. The road up is like this, and the road down does a very sharp bend, and it's very steep as you go down it. So ideally having lights is really useful. It's got quite deep ditches on either side, and the potential to actually flip the car if you're unlucky. But that was less, I wasn't frightened, I was just concentrating really hard, and I was exceptionally motion sick by the time we got home at about 2 o'clock that morning. Dave took it in his stride though. Good times, Dave. My, how times have changed in the past few months. That was before we had the spotlights as well. We had the little flare eyepieces. Oh my goodness, you want to know about motion sickness? Try driving like this, looking for the thermal signatures with a little monocle type, I don't know how you describe it, a telescope. Doing this backwards and forwards, looking for the heat signatures of animals. It's hilarious. Is that a hippo a kilometer away, or is that a lion right next to me? I'm not entirely sure. Good times. I used to fight over who got the one with the zoom. There's one that was slightly better than the other. While I bumble about relatively uselessly trying to find us something to look at. Where's my Flea monocle when I need it? Don't have it. But I'm going to go and search for an animal that comes into the road. Now, fortunately, Tayla doesn't have to go searching. Let's go back to her and her lovely lions.
We did, and it was short-lived, Jamie. They've now sat down in the grass. They're exhausted after travelling for most of the evening from wherever they've come from. They've been on a serious walkabout as well. I don't blame them if they're a little bit tired. They're halfway to their favourite spot on the breakfast rock. One of the breakfast rocks is a popular, basically a spot to have. Well, a little snack and some tea and coffee or sundowner, whatever you choose. It is a lovely spot, and these lions love it too. You may remember we had them sitting up on the rocks when we had them attempt to hunt a warthog not so long ago. The days just fly by. I couldn't even tell you how many days ago, weeks ago that was. Now, earlier Jamie was talking about what makes her scared at night, and I suppose we're looking at, well, the biggest cat in Africa, and I can't tell you how relaxed I am around them. However, I'm a bit like Jamie. Put a few thousand wildebeest together and get them to stampede, that sends shivers down my spine. It's actually a little bit of a fear of mine. I do panic. You've all seen me panic around those big herds because they're just so unpredictable at night. During the day it's a little bit different. Obviously they'll see you, but at night, even though I know they can see us, it terrifies me. So that's probably the most frightening thing. Otherwise you're fairly safe in the car. Another thing that can make you a little bit nervous is when we sleep in the vehicles and you hear, when we had the old covers, you'd hear the Velcro sort of start tearing apart, and it would just be the wind, but you'd think a lion or something is sticking its head underneath the flap. That would make me a little bit nervous, and I would wake up. They can't do that now, of course, with our new ruse, but I would wake up in a proper panic, thinking that I was going to get eaten or I was going to fall out the car. One of the two. But so they stop for a break. The girls keep staring back towards the escarpment. I think they know that most of the animals go and sleep at the base of it and up along the forest, trying to keep out of the wind. So they might have some luck there, maybe with an eland, maybe with some zebra, the odd topee, couple of buffalo always around this particular area. So who knows what they're going to go for. It could be quite interesting though to find out what they go after. Maybe we find them tomorrow morning. Hopefully they don't make a kill tonight, because I'd like to see them successfully take something down. They've been teasing me. Right. We're probably going to say goodnight to these lions, though, and let them get on their way. They look like they're doing yawns and they're going to have a nap now. Tristan, however, has found an animal that is the king of camouflage.
It is indeed, and there, sitting in between the leaves, is two black eyes peering at us in the form of a chameleon. So we have our little flapped neck chameleon, and the first one of the summer for me, which is really cool and really great news. It means hopefully that they are going to be out. I'm super surprised that we found it on a night like tonight. It is cold, it is overcast, it is not chameleon weather at all. We normally find these guys coming out in the sort of balmy summer nights when they can come onto the edges of the trees and wait for unsuspecting insects to come past and then shoot that big sticky tongue out and grab them. So really, really cool to see them, and a super big surprise. Now, we might not have found much this afternoon, but this for me is as good as anything else that we possibly could have found. I love chameleons, and to see the first one of summer, that, like I say, that I've seen. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has maybe seen some, but it's definitely the first one that I've seen, which is absolutely wonderful. So super cool. Now look and watch its eyes. Its eyes are the most amazing things, is that they're able to look at different things at once. So one eye is staring at me, the other eye is looking off to the side, so they can process both images and they can work out exactly what's going on with each eye, and they can even judge distance and all kinds of other things using those eyes. It really is absolutely incredible how each eye moves independently of the other one. Paula, you say you honestly didn't see that at first. Well, Paula, it's funny. In infrared, it actually blends in a lot more than it probably would do with light. I can put a light on and show you if you want to see what it looks like in kind of real life. It's a lot easier, and the reason why is because when it's dark like this, the chameleon, unfortunately, it loses its ability to really kind of see its environment that well. And so when we come along and you shine your light, they generally are a little bit lighter than the leaves around them, and that's what makes them a little little bit easier to spot for us, but in infrared you don't get that appearance. It just blends in incredibly well. And if it was during the day, that chameleon would be very difficult to see, because it would be able to judge the color a lot better and adapt its greens to have a darker tone that it would blend in better. But at night it loses that ability, and it unfortunately stands out quite easily for us to see it. Although it takes a bit of practice to spot them, it's not the easiest thing to see. Like I say, if I put a light on it, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So that's without a light. You can see it's slightly lighter than the rest of the surroundings. There it is. So you see that they are a light kind of lime green coloration and not as dark as the leaves around them, which is super cool. Such an epic little animal. I love chameleons. They really are cool. And you can see he's got his legs just kind of clinging on. And as I shine the light, so he'll start to go darker. And the reason why is because he's now can work out the colors around him. And so slowly but surely he'll actually start to blend in a lot more. The other nice thing about it is that we can see his little white throat. And that's why we're seeing him so nicely. But if VM comes out a little bit, I'll show you what it looks like from my perspective. That's what we're seeing. So as you're driving along and you shine your light, you just see that light a little bit in the middle. That's what you're looking for when you're looking for chameleons. It takes a bit of practice, but eventually you get it right and you can then spot them and see them in the dark like this. But such a cool little animal. I love chameleons. Nice. We're not going to shine our light at it any longer because we are blinding it a little bit with this spotlight. So I'm going to leave it be and let it sit and try and stay as warm as possible. Being a cold-blooded animal, it's not going to be very lively tonight, unfortunately. It's going to be a bit tough. Pisces, you say you wish your eyes could do that. Well, like I say, it takes a bit of practice. It's not something that just happens overnight. The first few times I was out in the bush, I really battled to be able to see the nocturnal things like chameleons, and it took me a while to kind of get into it. But once you kind of know the technique and know what to look for, Pisces, I think you're also talking about the chameleon's eyes and not actually how we spot them. Well, yes, I suppose it would be quite nice. Imagine being able to turn your eyes in different directions and seeing in different places. Must be very cool. The other interesting thing about their eyes is they don't really have binocular vision, in that their eyes are not attached to the front of their face, but their eyes turn so much in the sockets that they actually can come quite forward. So their eyesight must be incredibly good, because they're able to shoot their tongue, and like I say, that requires a depth perception, and on top of that they're able to then see sort of behind them and on the sides for any predators that might be around. So they have the most incredible eyesight in that regard. I don't think they've got the best eyesight out of all the animals, but in terms of being able to see all around them, they probably have the best of all of them that we have here. If we think about moving, there's an owl. No, it's not an owl, sorry, I thought it was an owl, but it's two hornbills that are in the tree. So I'm not going to shine on them for too long, but you can see the white of them, and VM's going to put the infrared on instead because I don't want to blind the hornbills. But they're having a little bit of a nap in their guarri tree. It seems as though this is the place to be. Why didn't we drive here earlier? Everybody's having a bit of a nap in this particular section. So VM was right that they were all having a little nap and lying in bed. Right, unfortunately that's all from us this afternoon. Hopefully we'll have a bit more luck in the morning, and hopefully the Angama Pride will be this side. But while we kind of meander our way home, let's go back to Tayla McCurdy, who's got her spotlight out as well, and hopefully she'll bump into something interesting on the way home.
Land. Sorry. There's two Marsh Owls. No! There they fly. That's so cool. They look like Marsh Owls. They have very dark faces. The two of them, they look like they're chasing one another. Oh, that's so amazing. Woohoo! Finally, I got everything I asked for today. I'm a spoiled girl. That's all I can say. But I was trying to encourage that owl to land, though. Obviously shouting, land, didn't work. Chase them further and further away. But a quick glimpse of them, that was amazing. You'll just have to trust me and believe me. Hopefully we'll be able to find them again. I have seen them. I've actually got a screenshot I shall show you. I just need to dig it out on my phone somewhere. Of a still. I think it was with Craig actually. When I saw my first marsh owl, it was on the other side of the river in the reserve. It was really amazing. We've been so lucky. My goodness, we've seen so many different prides of lions today. It's been exceptional. A little bit quieter on the cheetah front, but that's all right. We've seen so many other things, from birds and plants, to, of course, the cats. Lots and lots of different cats. Nice to see those owls right at the end of the Serval, of course. But I hope that you all have enjoyed the show just as much as me, and we look forward to having chats with you and showing you animals tomorrow morning.